Cold water plunging and ice baths and sea swimming have all gained huge popularity over the last few years. We hear that research is showing it to be hugely beneficial for reducing inflammation, for supporting immune function, for improving mental health. It sounds great. However, most of the research to date has been done on men. So I decided to dive into the research as well as individual women's experiences to see if this cold water immersion is actually helping or hindering our delicate hormonal balance. Many women find cold water therapy and sea swimming to be helpful for their PMS and perimenopausal symptoms, but recently I've heard quite a few experts suggest that it is not good for women and that women should specifically avoid cold water for a few days before and during their periods. The main discussion seems to be arguing that cold water immersion increases cortisol and adrenaline levels, which then has a negative effect on progesterone levels. Progesterone is this lovely calming hormone, and we need to support it in that second half of our cycle, our luteal phase, after ovulation and before we bleed. Lower progesterone levels can lead to worse PMS symptoms and impact the overall ratio of estrogen to progesterone, which is so important for overall hormonal balance. Recently, I took to social media to ask my community of period positive women what their experience was. It varied greatly, of course, but many women found that cold water immersion is actually really helpful, and many also then intuitively avoid cold before or during their periods. So in traditional Chinese medicine, it is recommended that we avoid cold water and even cold food when we're menstruating. It's also important to keep that womb space warm and avoid any cold when trying to conceive. So then moving on from individual experiences and the sort of traditional recommendations, I decided then to dive into the research on cold water immersion. And I managed to find a few studies that were focused on women, which I'll highlight in my full written blog, including references, etc. But here is an overview. First of all, I was fascinated to find that so many of the studies done on cold water immersion don't even specify if the subjects being studied are men or women. When, women and men have such profoundly different endocrine systems, it just seems like such a huge oversight. Anyway, there was an interesting 2014 survey-based study that interviewed 1,114 women, and it asked about the impact of cold water swimming on their menstrual and perimenopausal symptoms. And the research found that 56.4% of women specifically swam to improve their menstrual symptoms and 63.3% for their perimenopause symptoms. They reported that it reduced anxiety, mood swings, irritability, low mood, and hot flushes by between 30 and 40%. Another 2014 study found that men and women have different neuroendocrine and immune responses, specifically that there were larger responses in men, with men having greater spikes in adrenaline than women. And they found that women in general have a better insulative response, which may be our body's way of dealing with the stressor of cold water and looking out for our hormones. In 2000, another study looked at the influence of gender and the menstrual phase on thermosensitivity, which is our sensitivity to temperature, during cold water immersion specifically. And they found that women were not more sensitive to temperature and cold at different stages of their cycle compared to men. Just because we're not more sensitive to the temperature doesn't mean the temperature doesn't affect us differently. Another very small study of just 9 men and 7 women found that cold water therapy reduced negative feelings and reduced cortisol levels in both sexes. This is interesting because one of the reasons that it is suggested that cold water is bad for our female hormones is working off the assumption that cold water exposure increases cortisol levels, which then negatively impacts progesterone levels. But this study, very small study, suggests that that may not be the case for everybody. Cold water therapy is also often suggested for women with PCOS, as it's known to help balance the body's fat stores. It increases the more metabolic type of brown fat, which in turn can help to rebalance hormones in women with PCOS. There was a medical hypothesis published that suggested that cold water swimming for pregnant women may lead to fewer negative birth outcomes by reducing stress and improving mood. Personally, as a woman who swam in cold water throughout my pregnancy and postpartum year, I did feel like it reduced my stress and I always felt better after a swim. But again, there's no actual studies on how these bursts of cold exposure actually may affect pregnant women, so I think it really is a case of listening to your own body and deciding what is best for you and your body. Regardless of the limited science that has been done on cold water immersion for women specifically, many women that I know find cold water therapy to be so beneficial for easing PMS, reducing inflammation, regulating their cycle, easing perimenopause. Many women do note that they avoid the cold water just before or during their periods. Well, one woman actually commented that she prefers to just put her feet in the cold water because any more than that puts her body completely out of balance. So like so many things when it comes to our health, it can be different for everyone. Check out my Instagram, Siobhán Talks Periods, if you're not following there already. And if you are, just scroll back to see the original post. And also, why not join the conversation in the comments here as well? Let me know your thoughts on this cold water immersion and how it impacts you and your hormones. And as always, listen to your own body and your own intuition. Keep in mind the information that I've shared here, of course, about the potential of cold water, the impact on your adrenals and cortisol levels, for example, and maybe the TCM advice to keep warm before and during your period. But ultimately, the best research is that which you do on yourself. If you just love sea swimming or cold plunging or whatever it might be, if you have a fairly regulated nervous system and balanced hormones, you may be able to reap the benefits of this cold plunging without any negative impact on your hormones. But if you have a huge aversion to the cold, or if it doesn't feel good at a particular time of the month, then don't do it just because the sort of so-called experts on the internet are saying it's the next best thing for your health. As menstruating women, our intuition often actually gets stronger during our periods. So listen to what the voice inside is telling you and decide for yourself whether cold plunging is for you at any given time of the month. And here's to happy, healthy hormones and balanced menstrual cycles, beautiful ladies.